Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, we'll be discussing my thoughts on episode 7 of the anime series Fuuka. And wow, man, talk about answering to that title, blown up, blown out of proportion. Was this picture that, as we saw at the tail end of the previous episode, post credits, a couple of guys were sitting in a cafe, and one of them had snapped a mobile picture of Koyuki and Yu with their pinkies interlocked, making that promise to each other that one day they would play on the stage together. And one of you guys actually asked me a couple of days ago, as of the time of this recording, what I thought of that. And I pretty much speculated that, taking the title into consideration, Blown Up, that it would probably be, released online, get blown out of proportion. And I really, in my speculation, I sort of only really focused on the character dynamics going on between Yu and Sarah and Fuuka and Koyuki and that kind of thing, like what might happen, what fallout might occur with those characters. I hadn't at all even taken into consideration, because Koyuki is so famous, because Tama-chan is this up-and-coming singer, that there might be backlash from her fans in such a way as is depicted in this episode. None of that even scarcely occurred to me. The fact that these people are wanting to sort of gang up on you now at this festival band performance that they've been, practicing toward. And we leave this episode off very much in a cliffhanger because, yes, it is a big event. As we started winding down this episode, I was very fearful that we wouldn't get their performance, but I want the full performance. I don't want snippets of it. I want to hear a full song and see the culmination realized of what they're practicing, has built up to. So I'm assuming we're going to have that sort of off to the side until the next episode. Hopefully the next episode will begin with them walking out on stage, starting to jam. We will see whatever fallout begins with all those people, very presumptuously showing up, wanting to take Yu to task for being this unrequited love of Koyuki's, and hopefully we will see the band win them over. But I could not have imagined that all these people would be so scathing. People online wishing for him to die, because Koyuki, sort of against the better judgments of her, the people surrounding her, her manager and everything like that, she goes on to a live TV event where she's not supposed to say anything. She's not supposed to acknowledge that this was her in this picture with you. And I think they even talk about a press release has gone out denying that it was even her. So a lot of people, when they see her and she begins speaking about this, they're kind of shocked. They're taken aback. They're like, wait, oh, that was her? Did she just admit that that was her? Because, of course, they've heard otherwise. It's been sort of blanket statement released all over the place. No, that wasn't Koyuki. But I was actually I was surprised, but I was really proud of Koyuki in that moment for owning up to the truth of her life. And going so far as she did. I didn't know what Fuuka's reaction was going to be, and you see her watching one of the, like a TV store where they're debuting this whole interview live, and she's kind of taken aback. And I'm somewhat proud of her that it wasn't in a derogatory sense that she was taken aback. She wasn't upset by it. Much answering to my speculation in the comment that I responded to one of you cats who asked me what I thought would happen, I supposed that Fuuka would not be so upset that there might be some kind of relationship between Koyuki and Yu, but that Yu would not have brought himself about to revealing how much of that, he was aware of. Of course, he doesn't have, so far as we know, romantic feelings toward Koyuki. He's considering her a friend of old and everything like that. He had never found out. He never knew any of this, that, he was basically the unrequited love that Koyuki holds up above all else and has written all her songs about. This is new information for him. It's kind of world crashing down on his shoulders level, finding that out, the way he's had to find out. But how Fuuka might have reacted to that, I was really proud of her for hearkening to that truest nature of her as a character, where she made that promise, that vow in the previous episode to support Koyuki in all things, chasing down this unrequited love, wanting to see that come to fruition someday. And when finding this out, when putting two and two together, when the other lake finally dropped, and she realized, oh, Koyuki's been talking about you, rather than be upset that there could be any romantic thing going on there, unrequited or not, she was more upset that you hadn't said, that he'd seen her. The same night Fuka ran into her, and they had their gallant naked bath together. It just, I was proud of the reactions of these characters, and all of his bandmates, of course, who are very supportive. This group has become so tightly knit and so supportive of each other. Just in the span of a couple of months, I think it is, Sarah says that they've been together. She feels welcomed. She feels part of the group. And even though when they're singularly by themselves, Nachi's like rolling across his garage, practice area's floor, freaking out about the backlash on Twitter and everything because of you and Koyuki and all this stuff. He's thinking about backing out, but he knows he can't back out. He wants to support this band. Same thing with Mikasa, same thing with all of them. Sarah, they have reservations, but they've built up so much connectivity between themselves in the practicing that they've done, in the learning of the songs. They all want to be there for each other. And Yu is perhaps the most vulnerable at that point, because, as I say, he has no idea this is how Koyuki feels. She called it out on live TV. As proud as I am for her, she didn't really have the forethought to think, about how that would affect you, because he didn't know. He had no way of knowing. The last interactions they had together, first she sort of runs off when he talks about having had interest in her as a child, and then they think they're fighting and they have to make amends, and she gives him the ticket to her Christmas concert, whatever it is. So there's a little bit of an awkward nature between them, but that's chalked up to their ages, their youth. They're still in school, they're still very young. Even though Koyuki has this grand musical career, she's not fully matured as an adult. She's still going through the growing pains of life and figuring that stuff out. So for her to go on TV, I was so proud that she admitted the truth, that she kept to the truth, and she would not be sort of, pigeonholed into this public persona that was acceptable to all. She would rather have people know, hey, I've written these songs, these very emotional songs, these heart-tugging melodies and ballads about someone. It's not about you, the listener. There's someone in my life that I have felt for, and it has not been reciprocated, and I want you to know the ins and outs of that. Yes, this was me in the picture. Yes, this was my friend of old. We had been split apart for so many years. We found each other again recently, and we just reconnected. We just wanted to be friends again. Oh, and by the way, he's the one I've written all the songs about. So she could not have really, in that moment, making that spur of the moment decision, equated how that would affect you and how that would affect the masses, the populace of her fans, the reaction they might have. I'm sure people who don't even know who she is are probably, being part of the lemming groundswell that are, sort of pitchforks and torches going after you now. They want to jump into the crowd, be part of that movement, even not really understanding what it is. And so we are left with that fear. Yu feels like he's brought the world down upon the shoulders of his bandmates, but they will not back down. They've all chosen for themselves, by themselves, to be there for their friends, their fellow bandmates, and they're going to play these songs. They're going to perform, and they're going to go out on stage, and they're going to own it, no matter what. And I like that we hear from, Sarah's brother, that when Hedgehogs had played one of their first performances, they had to deal with the beer bottles being thrown at them and sort of a scathing crowd. And she asked, how did you deal with that? How did you not crush under the weight of that? How did you not get booed off stage? Just go running. with your tail tucked between the legs. And he says, because I owned them. I played as badass a guitar as I could play, and I won them over with the music, with the sound, with the emotion, the vibe. And it's an empowering statement. It's an empowering belief for this new fledgling band of Fuka, Nachi, Mikasa, Sarah, you, to go out on stage and hopefully do that very thing. You know, it's kind of like, as answering to my motif for people who are familiar with my background as the blues man, having been a performer in a Blues Brothers tribute act when I was in my teens and middle school and everything, and having earned that nickname because I was, you know, very much familiar with the minutiae of the Blues Brothers film and their appearances on Saturday Night Live and all this kind of stuff. It reminded me, talking about bottles being thrown at them and everything like that, why didn't they put up some chicken wire for Fuka and her band? You know, because there's that sequence, if you've never seen the film, there's a sequence where they end up having an impromptu performance at a country bar and tavern, or tavern and restaurant kind of thing. And they just try to play their traditional music, which none of the country bumpkins want to hear. And so they start throwing beer bottles and everything like that. And the Blues Brothers band, they don't back down. They're like, okay, well, what can we play? And they end up playing the TV show theme to the original sort of Western classic TV series Rawhide. And this wins the crowd over, but then the beer bottles are still flying. You know, they're now celebrating the band playing something good. So that's what I was thinking of the whole time, reminded of the Blues Brothers and beer bottles getting slung at the band and them still pressing on and playing something to win over the crowd. And they did. They succeeded. And that's what I hope and wish very much for Fuka and you and their band. I hope they can win over the crowd. And to see that Yu's sisters are going to be in tow, they are very much in support of him. They really didn't know if he was serious about the music at all. And, you know, they just thought maybe it was a passing thing. They didn't really know much about it because he's not that open. He's not that open of an individual. He spends all his time online, so they have to learn everything from online, from Twitter, whatever he posts there. But they have his back, and it's empowering that. Not only his friends, but his family. Something he is only now just beginning to realize he's had all along because he has spent so much time online. And how much more empowering could you get? Your friends and your family have your back. They'll be there for you. Sometimes friends, the blood is thicker than water idea is not always true. Sometimes your friends are faster, you know, more supportive of you than your blood relatives might be. But in this case, Yu has both. And even Koyuki, in somewhat of a disguise, is going to be there wanting to hear his first performance. And I really have to wonder whether or not she's going to be picked out of the crowd, whether anyone is going to recognize her, and if a secondary fallout might occur. Because everyone's already expecting her to show up. It's already been rumored all over the internet that she will be there because this is a guy she loves and she wants to support him and all this stuff. And you have one guy calling out her name. She's freaked out in the crowd because she thinks she's been spotted, but he's just goofing off and everything like that. So it's going to be interesting to see this performance. And I hope we get a full-on, full song, full performance. I hope we really get to see the tide turn in the favor of Fuka, Yu, and their band. And I don't even know, did they choose a name for their band yet? I don't think they have. At least none is coming to mind off the top of my head in my memory at the moment. So hopefully they'll get an actual name for their band as well. Fuka and the Starlights, I don't know. And so yeah, otherwise I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought of episode 7 of Fuka. If you agree with anything I've talked about, my speculations going into the episode, how it all was answered by the end, whether or not you're proud of Fuka, Yu, and all of their bandmates for being so supportive of each other and, all that kind of stuff. Love it or hate it, anything goes in the comments below. Just love having that conversation. Otherwise, it'll be pretty much it for me on this. Hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.